through to our opening formalities. Karakia. Whakatakata hau ki te uru, whakatakata hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, e hiaki ana te atakura, he tio, hei huka, hei hauhu, ti hei moriora. Okay, moving through to apologies. I've received an apology from Helmut Modlik and Rawdy Faulkner is attending as his alternate. Just checking, I don't think we've got him here yet, but I'm sure he's not too far away. And we also have Councillor Tim Brown standing as the alternate for Mayor Whānau. Okay, so moving through to, we'll just move and second the apology for Helmut, moved seconded by Mayor Baker, and for Mayor Whānau, so seconded as well. All those in favour say aye. Those against no, declare that carried. Moving through to public comment. Don't think we have any members of the public who wish to speak. No. Conflict of interest declarations. Any conflicts from members to declare? No. Okay. Moving through to the minutes. And there's just noting there was one amendment from the 25th of June minutes that Janice Smith, of South Wairarapa District Council, was not present at the meeting. And with that amendment, is there anything else? No. So I'll move that the minutes of both the 30th of May and 25th of June be approved. Seconder for that, Councillor Connolly. Any discussion? All those in favour say aye. Those against no. I declare that carried. Moving through to the Chair's statement. I'll just quickly go through this for everyone. First off, I should acknowledge the Jubilee Cup winning team, Hutt Boys Marist, for their victory. I knew Mayor Guppy would like me to mention that on the weekend, but no, obviously a good result here in the Hutt. Well done to them. So since we last met, all 5 metropolitan councils have confirmed their support for the new jointly owned water services entity. That means we now have a clear path forward. One that will allow for more investment in our network, better long-term planning and a more sustainable way to deliver water services across the region. Recruitment for the interim board is underway and work is progressing on our water services delivery plans ahead of the September deadline. I mention this because while we all have a somewhat dual role, it is going to be important for this committee now and obviously moving through to the new triennium to ensure that there is a smooth transition and working through issues as they arise. At the same time, we've also got some very good news, which you can see in this report and was covered in the Post this morning, which is great, around leaks across the region. New figures show from Wellington Water that leakage on the metropolitan network has dropped by 11 million litres a day over the last year. That's 4 Olympic swimming pools worth of water saved every single day, enough to supply around 50,000 people. These figures reflect a significant amount of effort from the teams on the ground, so I just want to acknowledge them and obviously the Wellington Water staff. 18 months ago, we had a backlog of over 1,700 public leaks across the region. That number is now down to 300. That represents a decrease of 83%. That kind of turnaround doesn't happen by chance. It's the result of targeted funding, clearer priorities, and stronger delivery as well. So well done to everyone involved. Many will remember how close we came to some serious restrictions during the summer of 23-24. And I think, again, while it is a good result, it isn't the only thing we can and must be doing. It's not necessarily, and it isn't a long-term solution when it comes to leak fixes, and that's why councils have backed other steps as well, planning for water meters, renewals, boosting treatment capacity at Timaroa, and preparing for new water storage. We're still working with an ageing network, but this 18 months has shown what can be achieved if we are focused in what we need to do with the situation we're in. So again, well done to everyone. Moving through now to the item 7, which is the variation of the South Wairarapa District Council's Management Services Agreement. And we've got Jessica Hughes, Principal Advisor and Legal, who's joined us online to speak to the report. Any comments from you, Jessica, before we open up for questions?
Thank you for that. I just wanted to make one quick note. A few of you have noticed that the timeframe for the contract was incorrect. Wellington Water told us a few days ago that it had just been transcribed incorrectly. So the date for the end of the contract is 30 June 2026.
Thanks, Jessica. We've got that. And just for clarity, Jessica's from South Wairarapa District Council.
That's correct.
Yep. Okay. Any questions for Jessica or any questions generally on this paper? Councillor Connolly?
So my question is arguably really unfair because it asks for an element of crystal ball gazing, which I know no one around the table can provide. But I guess I'm just trying to get a feeling of the trajectory of movement of South Wairarapa in relation to this water entity and the water entity that might follow. Because whilst I support South Wairarapa's proposal to exclude capital projects from the scope of services, all changes require work on behalf of you guys and Wellington Water, and so we don't want, if the trajectory is to exit Wellington Water, then this is part of that pathway. But if that's not what the future looks like, certainly not in the short to medium term, then is this the most sensible approach?
Thank you for that question. I'm just wondering whether maybe Melissa or Janice may be better placed to answer that. Thank you.
Yeah, I agreed.
I think probably two things. The first one is that this management service agreement is still in draft. We're seeking legal advice and looking at risk and what's involved there. The second piece is that this is for a finite period at this point, and we, like everyone around this table, will exit Wellington Water at some point because we're all transitioning to new entities. And so I would think, and Janice, correct me if I'm wrong, that the ability to crystal ball gaze beyond the end of this agreement is not required at this point in time.
Janice, did you want to add anything? No. Mia Baker?
No, mine was similar. I thought you were exiting, and if you wanted to come back, we would be looking at different charges because you are exiting. And we've all agreed to roll to the new entity. So I don't want this to be seen as something that then you can come back when we've done all the other work. So I just wanted to confirm you are exiting then.
Again, everybody is exiting Wellington Water. That's reform. We're all exiting to two brand new entities. And whilst I understand that 5 of the 6 shareholders are transitioning or exiting to one entity, we are all exiting from this current arrangement.
Yeah, and just for absolute clarity, this is only for the capital program, right? So from the 1st of July, the capital program will now sit with South Wairarapa District Council rather than under Wellington Water. So the operational side of the network still sits within Wellington Water. I would imagine that under any future arrangement of period of time before a Y+T model was set up, that South Wairarapa will continue to deliver the capital program. It's not going to come back. Yeah, so I think that's what we're considering here today. Yep. Okay. No other questions? So we do have the recommendations here in front of us. And just for clarity, we do need a unanimous agreement on them. So I'm hoping we're able to do that. So I'll move the recommendations 1 through to 4. Do I have a seconder for that? Yep, Deputy Mayor Salafuta. Any discussion? All those in favour say aye. Those against no. Declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we'll move through to item 8, which is the company and governance update on page 87. Patrick, Nick, welcome. And we've also got Erin as well. Erin may not be here at the moment, but I'll let you guys kick off.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and committee members. Just a sort of an overarching summary, really, of where the board and the organisation is at this reporting period. I think we've moved in the right direction over recent months in terms of our transparency and that sustained effort to improve the ways of working in the organisation and provide over time better value for money, or the some clarity around the value for money that's being achieved. And the organisation has signalled a clear shift, really, from that crisis management to more systems-based leadership, and as I mentioned, that the value-focused delivery. We've made some meaningful progress in addressing governance concerns. We now have a full suite of properly inducted directors, and we're working very much on the idea that we're looking to the future of what we're looking to hand over to the new entities, and a mindset shift from not just fixing, but that transition readiness that you all require. And so the sort of the three principles that the board has informally workshopped are around transformation, transition, wind up of the current organisation, but also improvement of the business as usual, which you absolutely require until the day of handover. And so we've talked about the fact that we will get you to the gate with the money that you've provided. That is the focus of the board, and that as Wellington Water fades, we will recognise that the work that we're doing now, both on transformation, if you think about system build, actually needs to be picked up by warm hands. And so we've got to keep that connection with the work that the AOG is completing. So that is picked up on the other side. Overall, we are continuing to oversee in terms of culture and capability improvement. We're seeing an improvement in staff morale. The appointment of a transformation lead to look at that, the organisational change, and obviously that very important improvement around contractor oversight and bringing project managers in-house where previously consultants have completed that work. We're also now publicly reporting performance metrics and sharing them with the Commerce Commission to build transparency. And I think that's an important step for Wellington Water, but actually for the regime that we are collectively moving towards. I'll hand over to Pat to sort of for a more operational focus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it is, in terms of business as usual, I think we have, I have a feeling, touch wood, we have turned a corner. In the last 6 weeks or so, 6 to 8 weeks, we've stopped turning over stones and reacting to things, and now the changes that we're implementing are being driven by our own drive for improved performance. But there are some serious challenges on top of business as usual. So we now have transition teams set up to work with South Wairarapa and with Dougal's team, and working very closely with them. We're implementing the IT systems. So that's probably going to take 6 to 8 of our subject matter experts out at least. We've taken on some extra resource to help with the transition work. The IT implementation projects, we've changed the scope to reflect the transition team's request to start looking at some of the systems the new organisation will need early on. but we probably have another 6 subject matter experts tied up with that work, working up the scope of the RFP and then evaluating tenders, and we don't expect we'll see very much of those people for the rest of this financial year. But those are 2 mission critical things that must go well if the future is to look bright for the 2 new organisations. And on top of that, on top of just keeping the plane flying, there are internal improvements. I briefed our 3 new directors on our journey, and it's the first time I've actually told the story from the start. It took about an hour and a quarter, and while they had done some due diligence, they were fairly surprised by the time I got to the end of the story. And I concluded by saying, so if you see people coming into this room with bruises or scars, it's because the pace of change has been quite brutal, but we haven't the luxury of taking our time over this, that these things have to be fixed quickly. So, but we're doing a staff survey at the moment. I think morale is climbing. Certainly the announcement that the majority of our 3rd tier staff and below will transfer across to the new organisation was a huge morale boost, so that's been very well received. And also the investment in our IT systems, that's been another serious indication that the councils are serious, committed to supporting the organisation, and people are, I think, a little bit cynical of change. They've seen it nearly arrive and then be snatched away. So I think up until now they've been a little bit cautious, but seeing the advertisement for the directors for the new company, they're now starting to realise, well, this is going to happen, and that's making a big difference as well. The only other thing I wanted to touch on briefly was, it's in the report, but health and safety. I talk about our concerns with Veolia's performance. Since I have written to the New Zealand manager for Veolia, outlining our concerns, and it just indicates while they take each incident seriously, there seems to be a culture where there are too many incidents for us to be comfortable with. So I have met with Emma since then. Our Chief Operating Officer, Charles Barker, has met with her as well, and we have requested that she bring their Australian-New Zealand Health and Safety Manager to meet with the board next week as well, because they are equally concerned about this and want to make it clear that this is being escalated to a high level. And one of the things we're pushing for very hard is a permanent health and safety representative working for Veolia, permanently based in the Wellington region. So we'll keep you informed as to how that goes, but they are aware, and we have documented our dissatisfaction with their performance at the moment. Apart from that, Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything else to talk about. Happy to answer questions.
I know we have got Erin online as well. Was it any comments you wanted to make, Erin? This is on the company and governance update.
Good morning, everyone. The only thing I'd like to note is the Value for Money Improvement Plan updates are included in this report, and acknowledging the change we've made as requested by Councillor Connolly around including the requirements to extend beyond just staff.
Thank you, Erin. We've got Mia Baker.
Thank you. I'm pleased you've spoken to Veolia. I just really want to say thank you. Those new stats that were out this morning for water loss just prove putting the extra money into water leaks actually works. I know we should be increasing more pipes and everything else, but actually investing in those water leaks makes a huge difference. So saving the huge amount of water, I'm really happy to see that this morning, so thank you.
Councillor Connolly.
So I had 2 questions, and actually the first one was about Veolia and their performance. So, you know, we've had issues around the performance of our wastewater treatment plants that has been ongoing for some time, and we've questioned Veolia's role in trying to bring up the level of performance for those treatment plants, particularly at Seaview. And time after time, you know, there are a worrying number of health and safety concerns that are presented to us. So I guess I'm a little concerned. So it is really heartening to hear the actions that you're taking in that regard. I am a little concerned to hear that the health and safety person would be a Veolia employee. Again, it kind of speaks to this question that we have of oversight of these subcontractors. Surely we need to grip up our health and safety, and we need to be on site ensuring that Veolia are delivering, because at the moment they're not delivering, and they're not taking health and safety seriously as we need them to, and having one of their people kind of as another voice of Veolia, is that the right action? And should we be looking at taking this responsibility of delivering better health and safety upon ourselves rather than outsourcing it to Veolia?
So Veolia has the contract to run those wastewater treatment plants. So they are they are in charge of that PCBU, but it is a shared responsibility because we are acting as the owner of that PCBU as well. But we do look over their shoulder. That's why we know they're doing badly. We have commissioned independent reviews into their performance. We're waiting for another one at the moment. But one of the things we have to be careful here is that we don't end up usurping their responsibility. So we're looking over their shoulder, telling them that they're not doing well enough, and they've asked us, what would you like us to do? And we've explained that's not our job. Your job is to have your own systems and processes that we will look over your shoulder and we will critique. And at the moment, we don't think they're doing that well enough. But one of the things we have to be careful is that we don't assume responsibility for operational health and safety in that plant. But no, I have every confidence in our health and safety resources, that's for sure.
Charles?
I can give further assurance that one of the things, if anything, is that we devote a huge amount of time to the health and safety of the plants that Veolia operate. We've increased the contract management capability because the contract manager also has a role monitoring the performance of the health and safety. And the steps that they're taking is they're undertaking by adding that human resource in, is the kind of the thing that we need to marry up with. That's the missing bit. If we're not careful, we're taking the kind of that continuous overarching pressure, that healthy pressure that brings up health and safety. They need to start generating that themselves within the region. And so, but we lean in very, very heavily.
Okay, so I hear, I guess, that we don't want to actually take control because then that would change liability more towards us than towards them. So that's a really solid argument. I guess, though, Veolia has been on our radar for some time for a number of issues around their performance, and this committee just needs assurance that that there are actions in place and consequences if they don't start performing to the level that we expect.
So they are getting that message loud and clear, but you need to look back to October last year where this organisation wrote its first angry letter to Veolia, that staff were not allowed to write to create a tension between Wellington Water and its contractors. So that we're playing a bit of catch up at the moment, but I think there is no doubt they have that clear message, and I suspect they're going to get that same very clear message from the board.
From a governance perspective, reinforce that and say that we've been behind the actions taken by management. We've also asked, for the benefit of new board members and existing board members, that both previous reviews be provided to directors so we can consider those issues alongside the health and safety deficiency that's been identified, and that we will be in lockstep along the way. The other point I'd make is that councils have voted greater capital investment into plants. We're hoping that performance will improve as a result of that. There are lots of issues mixed in here, and we've got to view them collectively while really prioritising health and safety as the number one.
My second question relates to the technology system. So at paragraph 45, you say that councils have requested that people management, payroll and billing services also be added to the scope of the procurement documents. What is that going to do to the cost of delivering on that contract? And are other councils prepared to come up with more money to fund those additional scope that they're looking to put into the procurement documents?
So certainly there have been extensive conversations about priorities and the pace at what we do things and the scope. And if additional funding is needed, then we've made it very clear that we have a hard cap that we can't go past. And there would have to be some discussion between the transition team and the funding they have and the funding that Wellington Water has. At the moment, all we've done, we had signalled that these are things we would like in time. We've strengthened that to say we'll want them sooner rather than later. But one of the discussions that still has to happen is what priority do we do them in? I know what I would like to see first, but that's a discussion. Once that RFP is closed and we know what the offerings are and how quickly it can all happen, then there'll be a discussion with the transition team, and probably the interim CE will be on board, hopefully very close by then as well.
Councillor Brown.
All right, thanks. Just a couple of questions. I note that you've reported a significant CapEx underspend of $111 million. What was that related to?
That was fairly consistently spread across the whole capital program, across the board. There are some larger bits of movement in there which carry a greater percentage, but overall the capital program was underspent. Part of that is in the past, Wellington Water would have maybe looked to move some of that underspend and capitalise it into renewals. But we're following council direction. We're being much more transparent that the money tagged to each project stays with that project and moves across and gets reforecasted into the next financial years. In the past, sometimes I think perhaps we consumed it and then we'll come and say, well, we need to top back up, and that was difficult for councils. There was also, in the context of all our changes, I think we would have underspent anyway, but not to this extent. And one of the targets that I've set the GM capital delivery that works for me is to get very, very accurate reforecast completed by what we can deliver this financial year, so that we can come back to councils and make sure that they are given the options about if any of that underinvestment unspent underspend wants to be prioritised to anything else.
So, but was it due to internal resourcing within Wellington Water, or was it sort of external factors?
It's not a great answer, but probably a combination of everything. I'd have to open it up, but some councils have some very large bits of activity that we're moving, and others are a series. But it's fairly consistent across all aspects of CapEx, that whether it's small or large program, there was an underspend.
Gotcha.
Certainly, stopping using the panels the way that we had, that did slow things down. It's not the only reason, but it contributed that all of a sudden we were saying, in fact, some consultants and contractors assumed they had the work. We had to say, well, no, you don't. We never formally allocated it to you. That was a discussion at the start of the year, and we're going to advertise it. So then we've got to go through a whole advertising and tendering process, which probably cost us 3 months and pushed a lot of the work out.
You've also in-housed, haven't you, like a greater level of capability at the project management and your own staff? So is that slowing things down at all? I mean, I know that it'll have long-term benefits, but is it a short-term sort of, slowdown thing?
Partially, but that doesn't account for the whole of the underspend.
Yeah.
So and we're staging that. The main things that we've been doing is making sure that no one from we haven't got consultants project managing other consultants. There's that. So these things will take a little bit of time to adjust, but we're pretty much there already. We're recruiting more project management in-house, so we can have independent project managers. That's a good step, but they're still more expensive than having them in-house. So we will speed up. Some of the underspend is from positive things. Like in Wellington City Council with the rising main, we're $2.5 million underspent because we're ahead of time, ahead of budget. So not all of them are because we couldn't complete the work or deferred the work. Some of them are because we've done it cheaper and faster for the councils than we estimated.
If only it was the whole lot.
Sorry, Charles said that we don't have supervising consultants. What he meant was we don't have consultants from within the panel supervising consultants.
Right, yeah,
So we have
yeah.
gone out and got somebody who has no relationship with anyone in the panel if we can't recruit. And now that we can guarantee an ongoing career path, recruiting will be a lot easier.
Oh, I think that's a great move. In terms of the leak improvement, which is obviously fantastic, but I noticed that the pipe renewals were quite a lot lower in the last financial year versus the prior one. But is it because pipe renewals and fixing the leaks are kind of separate things? Is that why you don't need to actually renew the pipes to actually reduce the leaks?
So renewals, if we fix a leak and there's a small amount of the patch, that's a leak repair, and when we for it to count as a renewal, it have to be a segment of pipe. Most of you get most of your large gains of renewals by doing large pieces of systematic pipe renewal. What we for Wellington City especially, it's pretty much we've added up all the little bits of work to compile to a thing. That's not really some leak repairs, therefore carry an aspect. They would tally up to that, some wouldn't, but by and large, it's an amalgamation of a whole lot of little bits of renewal for Wellington City Council. That said, there's the very large pipe renewals and the rising mains and things, but that's wastewater.
Gotcha. Sorry, last question. With respect... Oh, sorry. Yeah, my last question is around the metering, which I think you've indicated that you've requesting proposals. But how is that something which we as a council could actually see what you've requested? Because obviously there's a lot goes into that metering, and the metering is going to be, or in fact, the data that is available to the company going forward is going to be critically important in terms of how cost-reflective pricing is actually introduced, and given that that is one of the principles that we as a council support. So do we get to see the specifications of the data that you are seeking out of the metering initiative?
So I think we've gone out to the market just to find out what's out there. I think that's almost just a market engagement. That's the furthest thing we've done so far. We've we got a bulk water program investment case. So in other words, what should happen first? And no surprising, it's saying that water meters would be the next thing to drive down water usage and extend your upgrade horizon. So that's been socialised with. It's been to the board. They asked us to socialise it with council staff. We've done that. It's going back to the board, and then it'll come to the Wellington Water Committee. Trailing slightly behind that, we're still working on what sort of meters we would install and how they would be read. And then we would again be coming back to the board and to the committee and socialising with council. So no, we won't be going out to advertise anything until the councils know what we're planning. Probably not right down into the bones of it, but you'll certainly know what the plan is and have ample chance to comment.
Oh, great. No, thanks for that. I've just got a tiny little question around the metering. Is that, I mean, are you making progress on traffic management? Because I look at the number of road cones that appeared in my street for 1 metre. I was absolutely gobsmacked. I mean, is traffic management efficiency, coming into the equation, given how the scale of this, the idea of paying 18% of the cost of metering introduction to traffic management would just be horrific. And that was I think the Taranaki Street riser was 18% for traffic management. So I'm just using that figure as a...
Yeah, there's some exciting changes coming out of the central government in terms of traffic management, and it'll be up to the councils to adopt those when they need to. I guess the easy answer for me to say is that we comply with the policies as written by the councils, and the councils approve all of our traffic plans. So, but I agree that it is really important on us to, in the drafting of those and who we get to do those, that we seek to minimise that type of disruption, and the overuse of cones is a thing. So we need to make sure, and between the councils and ourselves, I think we can probably improve.
But yes, I was driving around Karori last week, and mostly what I'm thinking is, goodness me, how are we going to put meters in here? It's it's fine when there's lots of road reserve and there's a grass berm and you can do it out of the traffic lane, but in some places it's going to be a real challenge, and smart traffic management is going to be the key to making it economical, that's for sure.
Representative Puketapu-Dennis.
Kia ora team. It's always great to be here and read through the board pack. Just future forecasting. The point that Councillor Brown raised with respect to the $111 million underspend, I just sort of, from a governance perspective, I think there's probably a little bit of an eye that we need to put on that, particularly as we go into the new entity, because I can sort of foresee that we might get into an issue where there's a bundle of cash left in the kitty, but not necessarily an understanding as to whether the deliverables around those specific projects are going to be provided for through the new entity. So I think my view is that there should be some sort of schedule of some sort that's sort of brought to this forum, that we can just make sure that we've got that line of sight to what could be left, because I'm assuming once we've got this new entity set up, the direction will be set through a letter of expectation. It won't necessarily be individual councils prioritising their specific projects. It'll be more of what is the direction that comes from the newly established board and the letter of expectation, but there could be this little bundle of cash assigned to individual projects that we'll need to have line of sight to, so that we can make sure that they're also being delivered. So it's just a thought around assurance that we've got line of sight both at this table but also at the Wellington Water Board and at an operational level. Otherwise it might be an unfavourable little fight at the end.
And look, we've discussed this quite extensively within the organisation, that this phased late advice that we were underspent was not acceptable at all, which is what Charles was signalling, is we're going to expect much better from our project managers, and we'll be signalling a lot earlier if there's work that we can't do or we don't think we can do, and giving the councils the chance to say, well, swing some of that money into pipe relays or something like that, something that we could do a lot quicker and a lot faster. And we didn't do that this year. We were too late realising it, and the projections are too optimistic. Right up until the last minute, they were too optimistic. And so it's something that we're addressing very seriously, that we are not going to have this hockey stick increase in unspent capital budget as we get close to the end of the year. Our project managers will be, one of the things they'll be measured on is the accuracy of their forecasts. Not too high, not too low, just right.
Any final questions? No? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move through to the recommendations, which is just the noting and receiving the report. I'll move that. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Connolly, any discussion? All those in favour say aye. Those against no, declare it carried. Moving through to the annual report for the year end 30th of June 2024. We'll just invite also Wayne Maxwell, and I'll pass it over to the team for any comments they'd like to make.
Nobody wants to speak to this one. I get the pleasure. Kia ora koutou. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Gosh, we've got an annual report. It's pity it's for a year ago. A range of circumstances contributed to it. The first one was a typical desire to avoid having tagged accounts, with regard to one of the performance measures, which was that ratio of planned to unplanned maintenance. I've explained to a few people that the team was debated whether or not they could keep trying to provide adequate response so that audit could sign it off for too long, really. They kept trying until actually it was post-Christmas. But when you go to the asset data underlying these responses, for an individual item to be able to say, is this proactive or reactive, can we look at the data? You could have hundreds of transactions sitting within the asset management data that our contractors provided. And so there was no easy way to roll that up and go, yes, I can work out the percentages based on interrogating the data. So by the time we finally conceded defeat on that and said, well, that will have to be a qualification, other things had hit the media, our own reporting. And audit felt that it was incumbent on them to have a look at that, to see whether there was something they needed to have done or needed to do to validate the results of the inquiries. And after having a look at that and requiring us to provide them a bit of information, they have come back and concluded that no, there wasn't something that would result in a qualification, but what they have done, as you can see, is they've put it in as an emphasis of matter. So in other words, they're bringing it to your attention. I'm pretty sure it had got your attention anyway through other means, but there you are, it's in the annual report. So really the thing got dragged out because things were dragging it out, and they just compounded on top of each other. As at January, February, there was no certainty over the future of water services delivery, but by the time we have signed off this annual report, there's far more certainty about the future, and therefore the final emphasis of matter relates very much like it did a few years ago when water entities were being proposed, that there's an emphasis of matter saying the future is now becoming more clear, and therefore readers of the report should be aware of that possible change in future. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's probably a bit long-winded, but I did want to walk through those. I know there was, out in the community, there were some conspiracy theories flying around that this took so long because there was something being hidden, and clearly there wasn't. It just took time to work through those processes.
Thanks, Wayne. I think it's very helpful to go through that context for everyone. Any questions from members? Councillor Connolly?
Just regarding that ratio of planned to unplanned maintenance. So our current data asset management system doesn't allow us to easily interrogate which is which. How are we moving to fix that for next time?
Well, the best bit was, and it was before me, so I won't take any credit, the best bit was removing it from the SOI as an SOI measure so that you don't get a qualification if you don't deliver it. What we now need to do as we move into the TSI program and our acquisition, as important as buying the right software is setting your data up properly to go into that software. So that's the big piece of work that has to happen, and we have a significant data quality program going on inside our shop. And so it is about specifying how this data needs to be captured and recorded so that it can be reported. So whilst it won't be an SOI accountable measure, we will intend to be able to report on that and understand that, but that is for the new entity.
So if I could just interrogate that a little bit further, because I think that ratio is still really important for us to get our head around. Like if all our maintenance is reactive, we're not managing our assets properly, right? So despite the fact that it's not, so audit are only, sorry, I'm clearly not an audit specialist, so I don't entirely understand how these things work, but audit are only, I guess, verifying it because it was in our statement of intent. We can still provide that data to the public and to councils moving forward without triggering the need for audit to verify it. Is that correct? Because I think that is still very important that we get a handle on that and have some goals as to what's appropriate.
That's absolutely correct. At the moment, our proxy, though, is financial. So we look at where the dollars got put as the proxy for what was reactive, what was planned. And obviously, whilst you're absolutely right, it won't need to be audited. To get more comfort over that, we will want to see how we capture the underlying transactions to back up the financial data. And we will be doing that, yes.
Any other questions? No? Okay, thank you, Wayne. So we'll move straight through to the recommendations, which is 1 through to 3. I'll move them. Do I have a seconder? Mayor Baker, any discussion? All those in favour say aye. Those against no. Declare that carried. Item 10, which is the Wellington Water AGM, page 214. Erin, do you want to speak briefly to this?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Very procedural, this one. We've been through this before at the committee. The thrust of this is that we request that the shareholders resolve that there is no need for an AGM. The main thrust of this is that we complete a lot of the requirements of an AGM on a frequent basis at the Water Committee, which is the performance of the company, the signing off of the annual reports and having those presented, and any shareholder or performance issues. So that's what we're seeking you to resolve and sign off on today.
Thanks, Erin. I will move the recommendation. Oh, yes, go for it.
You know, the reason I'm in local government is because I love a good meeting. And so you're trying to do me out of one here. One of the things that I do like about having an actual annual general meeting is often we get the other directors, and a number of those directors I haven't met yet. So in lieu of an annual general meeting, I'm wondering if some of the directors could come to our next meeting and we just have a cup of coffee, something afterwards, because it's as much about those relationships for me in having that meeting.
Yep. Can I suggest maybe it would be one to do early in the new triennium, rather than right sort of towards the end? I mean, if that's, because I agree, it's a good point. As much as I would love to, and others maybe, but it might be a good opportunity for a bit of a chance. Okay, so if we're happy with that, so once the new committee's formed, we'll arrange something of that like. Yep. Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All those in favour say aye. Those against no. Declare that carried. Okay, moving through to item 11, which is the forward work program. Any questions on that? No? Okay, so we'll move the recommendation, seconded by Mayor Baker. All those in favour say aye. Those against no. Don't know if I had any votes there. All those in favour say aye. Aye. There we go. I declare that carried. Okay, moving to our closing karakia. Please feel free to join me. Unuhia, 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 e te uru tapinui, kia wātia, kia mama, tēnā kau, tia wairua, e te ara takatū. Koea rea rongo, whakieri, aki, kia ronga, kia wātia, ara, kua wātia, hau, pamarie. Declare the meeting closed at 10:50. Okay,